Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name's Stepsbasic and welcome back to my community show. It's the show where we take about 15 minutes, give or take, from playing video games to talk about video games and the community around them. This is part 4? Yeah, part 4 of my my ongoing series, The Parts of a Good Game. Now today, we're going to kind of delve back into what we were talking about last week. Not last week, the week before last. Whereas we were addressing the balance between story and gameplay. Today, we're going to talk about gameplay. Specifically, we're going to talk about interesting mechanics. I should probably mention I'm going off script on this one. I don't have a script because, quite frankly, there's not a whole lot I can really say about it because, well, for one thing, I don't know programming, and for another thing, it's fairly evident what I mean when I talk about interesting gameplay mechanics. When we're playing games, we think about the type of game we're playing. You know, you got your first-person shooters where you're running around with a gun sticking out of your nose shooting things. And, you know, you got your RPGs, you got your turn-based, and you got your full, I don't know, full something or other. And, yeah. Well, when I'm talking about gameplay, when I'm talking about interesting gameplay mechanics when it comes to a good game, I'm not talking about just the usual stuff that we're used to, like you shoot with the R2 button and you reload, you chuck grenades and all that stuff, or you select which option you want to use. Rather, I'm referring mostly, well, there's 3 games that come to mind instantly when I think of interesting gameplay mechanic. And these can, in themselves, make a game that is both frustrating and entertaining at the same time. When you think about these, I think about Octodad, I think about I Am Bread, and I think about Manual Samuel, which are 3 games that I've played that have what I would define as interesting gameplay mechanics. They take what you're used to and they make it a little different. Like in any normal action-adventure game, you walk around and you interact with people around you and you interact with the universe around you, but then you take Octodad, which I guess could be considered an action-adventure game, where your character is an octopus in a suit. And you have to walk around in a very flip-floppy manner. And it can get quite infuriating sometimes when you're trying to make that little dude do what you want him to do. Now, I've played and I've beaten Octodad. And, that was fun. It was exciting. Now, you take a look at it and it's like, it takes the usual mechanics and makes it interesting by adding the aspect of you're controlling a flip-floppy person. There have been other games like that. There was one about a cop. I don't remember what it was called, though. And there have been other games like that with interesting mechanics, but I think that's the first one that pops in my mind when I think about interesting gameplay mechanics. And then you think about I Am Bread. You're literally a piece of bread. And you have to get from one end of the kitchen or room to the other to find some way to toast yourself. And there's various different ways you can do it along the way. But again, infuriating in the fact that bread is not what you usually control. And that in itself makes it interesting. You have the ability to flip-flop it over and over. You can swing up and down walls. You can grip a hold of things, but you got the grip gauge that bakes down on its way. That one is quite possibly the most infuriating game I've ever watched and or played. And I've only ever played one level of it. And I'll probably never go back to it. And then you have Manual Samuel, which is, again, another action-adventure game, except this one's a side-scroller. And it's got great humor, and I've actually played that one fully on my channel, so if you want to, you can look at it. And it's entertaining. The mechanics in that are you have to control all of the individual parts. You have to blink, you have to breathe, you have to control the spine, because on occasions it goes... And you have to make sure to step properly. You can't just walk like normal, because if you try to step twice with the same leg, you do the splits, and that's great. Now, among these, you can look at the game and you're like, okay, so on one end we have Manual Samuel, which is fairly simple, straightforward action-adventure title where the character just walks and you have to control the different parts of his body, and that's interesting. And then you have Octodad, which is sort of in the middle ground, infuriating in the fact that your character keeps flip-flopping everywhere you don't want him to. And then you have I Am Bread, which goes to the far end of the this is infuriating to the point where I don't enjoy the game anymore. And all the way through that sort of, I guess you'd call it a spectrum, with one end being Manuel Samuel, the other end being I Am Bread. Now, of course, there are naturally probably outliers beyond what's I Am Bread and beyond what is Manuel Samuel when you come to interesting gameplay mechanics that make the game challenging and or fun. What makes it a pivotal part of a good game, though, is when you... Hey, look, my video's done uploading. Don't worry about that. Is when you take the game, the gameplay, you balance it to make it challenging, just challenging enough to be, well, a challenge. But when you take it too far is when things get to be tough. Literally, that's about all I have to talk about on interesting gameplay mechanics. Kind of wish I had more. Maybe I might revisit this again at some point. Basically, it boils down to interesting gameplay mechanics are good as long as they are not overly complicated. Now, having played I Am Bread and watched other people play I Am Bread, I know that I can go back to it and play it, but there's honestly not enough story to keep me interested. If you read the little cards in between the levels, then you find out some stuff about the game that you probably wouldn't know, i.e. you're torturing somebody. But anyway, and then where you have, on the other end of it, you have an interesting aspect of controlling an octopus with Octodad, and that in itself is pretty interesting. And there's a story behind it, like, who is this octopus, why is he in a suit, and how did he have 2 human children with a lovely lady? Questions that are never answered. I'm hoping for a sequel, honestly, because that game was spectacular. Me and Potato Nine, I played that game together. We played the co-op version of it, and it was a pain in the butt, but entertaining and fun at the same time. Although if you ever want to make yourself angry at somebody, just play that game co-op with them. Oh, it's horrible. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and poke that like button for me. If you'd like to, you can leave a comment down below. Hopefully I'll be able to get something more cohesive for the next season, the next episode. I have an idea of what I'm going to do for the next episode, so that'll be entertaining, hopefully. And yeah, tune in next time for that. And until then, night.